Recording in progress.
All right, I'll call to order the March 13th Public Works meeting. Can I get a roll call, please?
Chairman Waggy,
Here.
Alderwoman Tice.
Here.
Alderman Gould,
Here.
Alderman Erger, absent. A quorum is represented.
Okay. Go on to agenda approval. Any changes? Seeing none, we'll approve by acclamation. Citizen comment?
There's no one online.
All right. We'll move in the report of the committee chair and alderman. I do have one thing, kind of a random thing, I will say. So we had a little miscommunication today, and I would like to thank staff for making sure that we didn't send a bunch of sad children back to school. But so the middle school was coming over to do ice skating today, and I think there was a massive miscommunication in the school side of them telling the city that they were coming or something. I don't know. So I might have contributed to this a little bit, by the way, as I was thinking about it, because so they sent me an email asking if it had to come to the Board of Aldermen for approval to waive the fees. And I said, no, we passed a resolution, which is Resolution 1460 on August 21st, 2023, that said that BOLA had the authority to waive those fees. And I left it at that. And I suspect they might have thought that meant I was taking care of it or something. I don't know. So I feel like the football was probably in between some people. So what are we going to do about it now? Just so, and also I think we need to communicate to the school district what they need to do in future cases like this as well. So, and again, I thank Eric, you and your staff for being flexible today.
That was the easy part. I mean, we know where the school district is, so we know we can figure that out. And they booked the space with the staff, so staff knew they were coming. It was just when they came here and staff was kind of like, okay, here's how much it is. They're like, well, no, we don't pay
Right.
because resolution, whatever. So I think the real question for staff is that when we pass resolution in August, I don't have the exact resolution number like you did, but I did go back and watch the video and stuff like that to refresh my memory. What we said was that for PTO events, and so, and basically it's because the PTO comes and rents 2 days at the ice rink every year. And so instead of bringing that back time and time again, that's what we'd ask for permission to do. So we did not ask for permission for just general school district usage of anything. Typically, those have been brought back, much like the couple times they've rented or utilized the pavilion at Brentwood Park. Now, we're happy to do that if you trust Bola and I to make those type of decisions. I would trust myself, maybe not Bola, but no, just kidding. Bola would probably be a lot nicer than I would be. I mean, the event today is about $1,100 is what between the ice rental and the skate rentals would be for full price. And again, $1,000 is going to kill us. No, my only concern would be if we say carte blanche that the school district has free use of our facilities, then one time a year becomes one time a week, and then we start to have an issue. So that would be my biggest problem.
Yeah, so they actually did reserve the rink for.
They did. We knew they were coming. It was great. The only thing that I guess had was miscommunication between our staff and the school district was the actual payment part. So I think our staff what typically we've done in the past is they book the date with us, which is great. They come through, we see how many kids show up and how many kids need skates, and then we send them an invoice after the event. So that's typically what they've done, I think, since 2017.
And so they've done the middle school skate before as well? Okay.
Yep.
I know we do the PTO, like meet and greet of the two elementary schools.
Yes.
Coming together.
And that's the one we usually waive all the fees for.
So have they typically paid when the middle school comes to skate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this was a different thing, okay.
Yeah. And they did throw your name out there, Alderman
That's fine.
Legge.
Yeah, that's fine. Fire me.
It's much more than just the public schools. We have other schools in town. How would you describe them?
Private schools, Mount
Brentwood
Calvary.
schools, Mount Calvary. So at times they too come and want to use a facility, not just the ice rink. It could be the pavilion. What was the most recent one? Was it the pavilion?
It is Mount Calvary, yeah, at the pavilion. Yep.
Yes, I got it. Mount Calvary was the pavilion recently.
And we do have a number of school groups who come to the ice rink, and I mean, private school, St. Michael's School in Clayton, Forsyth and Clayton, and a few others who come, and they just pay kind of what we talked about, the daily fee, or the ice rental fee plus skate rental.
Yeah, I mean, we have the affiliated organization thing too, which helps a little bit. Like we deployed that for the YMCA last summer. So maybe that's a potential avenue on that. Okay, so for the middle school, I think for this thing today, maybe it's because there's new leadership over there. I don't know if we I don't remember the ice skating last year happening. Maybe I wasn't paying attention to
That or they've just paid it before.
Yeah, and I think it's a new PTO, so I think the PTO was in the mix. So I think that's because that's where the question to me came from, was from the PTO. Yeah, well, he started last year.
Could be.
So I think that's where all the miscommunication was coming down, so, okay. Why don't maybe we'll set up a call with the school and kind of get to the bottom of what happened and what the plan going forward is, and if we need to come back and make a request, we'll do that.
We're
But
flexible.
don't go break anybody's kneecaps right away.
No, we'll wait a couple days.
All right, thanks, Eric. All right, that's all I had. Nancy?
No report.
Jeff?
No report.
All right, we're moving the department reports.
I just have a couple quick things. The first one was 9115 lawn. We kind of talked, kind of put in the memo that the owner was a little worried about the fact that the emergency shutoff valve was missing, and we feared it was under the tree. It is under the tree. And so we kind of worked through that, and luckily, thanks to Dan, he kind of reached out to Missouri American Water and kind of talked to them about that. So Missouri American Water actually is going to be coming out in the near future to install a new tap and put in a new emergency shutoff. So they're actually going to put it in the sidewalk. So we'll have to remove 2 panels and replace those panels. In fact, I believe they're doing it, right, Dan?
They'll remove it and public.
Okay. Yeah, so Public Works, I put it back. So ultimately, this is a much better resolution than I thought when I first started writing this and what I really thought 2 weeks ago. So this is great. And then the other thing, just again, more information more than anything, is GRG has started their 2025 planning design projects. And one of the projects that they're working on design is a new extension basically from Deer Creek Greenway all the way to Lindbergh. And so I kind of threw the map on in the back. And it's very preliminary. They just hired SWT to do that design. And I mean, it may touch Brentwood at Brentwood Park. It may start in Lorraine Davis and then go the south side of the creek. They really don't know. It seems like, there was talk about, how do you get into, maybe connect into Litzinger so you can get into Tillis. And so it's exciting. I don't have a whole lot of information yet, but the staff will be a part of this kind of process. So that's kind of the 2 quick updates.
Any questions? Great, thanks, Eric. Oh,
Not for us. No, this is GRG's expense. Yep.
all right, thanks, Eric. Going to planning and development.
Good evening. The monthly reports were attached and also part of your weekly activity report. There were 176 new building permits and 1,138 inspections for the month of February, and 29 new code enforcement cases with 26 inspections. And we've also been sending out postcards to all those expired permits to get them updated. So those have been included. We are also working on the review of the 2024 building codes, ICC building codes. We also reviewed all of the building codes for 2024 permits, not the codes, I'm sorry. And on average, we average 1.5 days for review. From the primary reasons for any delays following the issuance of the invoices were information revisions required, no contractor's license, delay in payment, or it required board commission review and approval. So the average days from submittal to the issuance of a permit is 11 days, 11.5 days for all of the 2024 permits. We are also in the process of business license renewal, and late fees will be starting soon. We issued an RFQ for a nuisance abatement, and the deadline for that was February 28th. We only received one bid, which was not even a complete bid, so we are revising it to just be grass cutting, and we'll do a second RFP for other types of nuisance, and that should be going out pretty soon. The Planning and Zoning Commission met last night. The Home Depot received approval for additional outdoor storage, so that will be coming to the Board of Aldermen for a public hearing as an amendment to their CUP. And revisions to the self-storage text amendment was also approved, and that will be moving forward as well. They did have some changes to that, but those will be at the April 7th Board of Aldermen meeting. Architectural Review Board is next week. We have 3 items on the agenda, and then Board of Adjustment is the week after, March 27th, and we have 4 items on that agenda. We do have some vacancies on Board of Adjustment, as well as the Redevelopment Corp. And that Redevelopment Corp meeting is also March 19th, next week.
How many vacancies on Board of Adjustment do you have?
2 right now, but one of the members are running for alderman, so if that person gets elected, then we would have 3.
On the redevelopment corporation, is one of the vacancies I think we're still missing a school district board
Yeah.
representative? Have we talked to the school district board?
We have communicated with the school district, communications manager and the superintendent. I thought maybe they have forwarded a name.
Or they've forwarded the
Yeah,
name?
but we haven't met.
Okay,
So I need to check my notes to make sure what I'm saying is accurate.
okay, great. And then on the code, or on the violations, with debris and trash and overgrowth of weeds and everything, are those primarily coming in from complaints, or are most of them, our code compliance sort of finding them?
It's a mix of both.
Okay,
We do go out and drive around and note any properties that we see, but then it's also complaint-driven.
okay, all right, great, thank you.
Questions? Okay, thanks, Whitney. I don't think we have anything. Public Works, Dan?
Have a rundown of various projects here. So Russell Avenue, we put in that, laid down the stencil and did the marking. So if you're walking on the trail on either side of the railroad tracks, you'll see the RR, the white symbol with the crossbuck. So that's done. That was one of the final punch list items. I know I spoke with Navigate. There's still one more invoice we need to send to MoDOT, and then we'll be fully reimbursed on that $1 million that they paid us back for reimbursement. FEMA capital projects, Frederick Roofing, they're done with the gutter and downspouts out here. We're waiting on that final invoice, then we can try to get the reimbursement. The only other thing left that isn't written down here is the screening. So if you recall, there was that white fence. We're looking at a couple different vendors to find something a little bit more robust, something with a decent frame to it that we don't have to paint or very low maintenance, but also such that we don't put any roof penetrations. We wanted to either have it weighted or tie it off to the air conditioner unit since they're already mounted. So that'll take care of that. Stormwater bid package 1, I believe I mentioned at the last meeting. 2217 Park Ridge, Site 35 was omitted from those 6 projects. MSD would take care of it to some degree with CSO Mary, but that's still years away. When I had a meeting with MSD, I asked them if there was anything else. The only thing they suggested was like rainscaping grant. It's only about $4,000. I don't know how much, if you put some sort of garden in for rainscaping, that it would take from the runoff that's overland. Maybe some. And let the property owner know, but haven't heard back.
So could I ask a question about that? And it's maybe just a question for MSD. So in the stormwater plan, it noted that the inlet in the area has been disconnected from the combined sewer. So is it just that they disconnected the combined sewer, or did they block off the drainage? Because it seems that not as much water is draining out of there over the years. Because it's my next door neighbor, and I've lived there for going
They
on 30
sent
years.
an engineer out, and he claimed that it wasn't blocked, that it comes, I guess, east to the intersection of Park Ridge and White. That it ties into that inlet over there, and
It does, but the issue is it doesn't get into their drain, doesn't take all the water before it runs to the intersection. So
Right.
behind their house, there's an MSD drain behind the two homes,
Yeah,
and that overflows and then goes in the yard and in the house. So it seems that the blockage is the capacity of the drain behind the home in the middle part, before it even
Right.
gets over to the intersection. Is that what they're working on for CSO Mary in a year and a half or 2 year, whenever they get to
the
that?
CSO Mary is just a separation between the sanitary and the storm. So I believe there's only storm that's in that easement where the Ameren poles are. Because the only other thing I thought was, it's a private matter, but if they graded it, you could do a curb cut and remove a section of curb, so it would just kind of go across the west end of that property and out to the street, and then hopefully get to the inlet.
Would we allow them to take the curb out? I mean, I didn't think we allowed that.
I mean, Public Works would have to, wouldn't let them do it, but I thought, well, you could put some sort of drain there, and almost like a steel, they make like a steel throat, but instead of connecting to a pipe, it would just let the water flow through the curb out to the street. I don't know how well that
That's
would
like
work.
down, I mean, this probably isn't a good time to have this discussion at the moment, but like that's down like 3 feet. And so
Yeah.
are you gonna dig a tunnel then, like out underneath the sidewalk to get
That's
the
why I said
water
it would
out?
be
I mean,
private, you'd have to have a hydraulic calculation on that.
It just seems odd that MSD,
Yeah, they don't have any solutions, and I said, well, the person's still living there, and they still, every time it rains, they have fear that it's going to pool in the yard and then get in the basement. I know they told me that, I guess they enclosed that area of the basement because it had like stairs that went down
right,
on
and
the
they've done
outside.
drainage in their front yard.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't solve the issue that an entire neighborhood of water, or entire street worth of, 2 streets worth
Right.
of water drain to behind their house, and MSD doesn't have the infrastructure to rid the area of the water. So that's
Right.
and then MSD doesn't seem like they're gonna do anything to solve it when they're digging everything up.
Right, yeah, that's what I gathered.
Or
from
will they
talking to
allow
them.
us to fix it?
Right,
So it's baffling that this is one of the top priority issues in the city, and MSD won't allow us to fix it, nor will they fix it.
right. That's, I'm
mean,
agreeing, that's why I asked them, I was like, well, so the only thing you could come up with is like a little rain garden, it doesn't seem like, I don't know what the capacity is, but it can't be much.
When did we talk to them?
When we had that, or when I went to their headquarters last week, Friday. Because they had engineers and, Bess McCoy was there. And I said, is there anything you can do for this person? Because you're not allowing us to do this as part of bid package 1. Person still has a problem. If CSO Mary is not until 2026, what do you do in 25 and the rest of 26? And they start in 26, it's a 3-year.
Right,
a 3.5
and then they're
year
doing
project.
so much, they might not get to that.
Yeah,
But I
because
guess,
there's like 3 different phases of CSO Mary. It's like, well, is theirs going to be first? Is it last? Nobody knows because you don't have a contractor on board.
well, if MSD said that they were actually gonna deal with the issue, then it seems reasonable to wait, because and there would be no reason for us to do it because they're coming through. But like MSD's just saying, well, it's a problem. I mean, the resident can't plant a rain garden that's gonna take however much 4 feet of water in a
Allow us to
basement.
talk to them one more time.
Yeah,
then come
to
back.
MSD, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like this is something that MSD, if they're coming in and digging everything up, they ought to figure out a way
Right.
of dealing with.
Right.
So, okay, thank you.
Yep. Over at 2832 Manderley, city attorney's looking at the property and the ownership there, since some of that land was turned over, I believe, to the adjacent property owner. We need to get that back if we're going to fix that wall, since we don't have enough space to do the work. So that takes care of that one. The sanitation disposal fees RFP, I started that. I should get that done next week, and then we'll advertise. And I know Republic wants to bid on it. I know we have Waste Connections. So there's at least 2 or 3 I would think would submit on this. This is for just regular trash, not recycling. So, but it was a 20-year agreement. I'm doing a 10-year is what I thought, with a 5 renewal if we wanted it. The city center RFP or RFQ, that's just about done. I should have that wrapped up tomorrow. I rewrote a section of it, but that's, for redoing this area, thinking of some sort of civic center. It's just this area between Rosalie and Eulalie.
And it says RFP in here, but it isn't, it's an RFQ, correct?
I wrote it as an RFQ.
Yeah.
Because you're looking for qualifications.
Right. But at the same time, they're talking about, I just want to make sure we're not asking, we need to be clear with that.
Yeah.
If we're asking people to potentially say, here are our qualifications of what we can do, but versus an RFP would be, here are some proposals of.
Right,
what
it has to be
can done,
defined.
Right, so it's a little bit different. I just want to make sure. I think that the conversation we all had was an RFQ, so I just
Yes.
want to make sure that that's.
And then this infrastructure expo, Eric and I attended that over at the St. Charles Convention Center. That was on February 19th. It actually was well attended again, even though there was a snow event like the day prior. They had the snow removed, and a lot of other cities and vendors were there, so seemed successful. Got some information out of it. This MSD stakeholder meeting, that's what I was mentioning. I attended last week, and I included the brochure that they handed out. So basically, they went over like Stormwater S grant funds. So we could either combine it with another city, we could do it on our own. This is in addition to the OMCI funds that we also get, which those, if you recall, were reduced. But the Stormwater S would let us actually, I'd asked if we could clean the creek, and they said, yes, you could put in an application for that. So whether it's Black Creek, Deer Creek, kind of like we had Castle go between Litzinger and Manchester, we could put something together for that if we decided to do it. They did mention, which is in that brochure, there's an opportunity for them to come and speak to the board or a committee or even your ward meetings. And then lastly, they were asking if anyone was interested in touring the wastewater treatment plant. They don't know which plant, if it's Bissell or which one, but I said probably sustainability or, public works. They used to do it quite a bit with municipalities, and they haven't in a while. But I said I'd be interested if nothing else. So that's it.
Questions for Dan? Yeah.
So I have 2 sort of questions,
Yeah.
not related to what you mentioned. You've talked about the street sweeper. Are you going to put a schedule out soon with the smaller machine or the smaller truck?
Yeah, we ran
And-
it today. We got to get back on some sort of routine basis of every week. And then I know the drivers last year had put together like what they were able to do on certain days. So the goal would be to work March, bring something back in April.
Okay.
And then that'll be the revised plan.
Perfect. I just get lots of questions about that.
Yeah, we actually, on MyGov, you can actually put in a request, and someone had put in a request on Park Ridge. So
That was
I know he did that area there because I said, well, they asked first, so just see what you can do.
And then my second question is, the street markings on Litzinger are really faint, the yellow lines between our side and Rock Hill. So
Oh, from McKnight to say
from
high school.
McKnight to all the way to Brentwood, it's pretty faint through that stretch. So
Yeah, it's been a couple of years since we painted it.
yeah, so certainly if we could paint our lines, and I don't know how we do that little stretch between of the Bremerton West.
Yeah.
But
Because we'll have to probably touch up those sharrows too, the bicycle symbols, just because, we run the plow blade up and down there half a dozen times. It's peeling the paint up.
good. Thank you for adding that to your long list, I'm sure.
Steph, anything? Okay, thanks, Dan.
Okay, thanks.
All right, moving to consent agenda. All we have is meeting minutes from February 13th.
Motion to approve consent agenda?
Second?
All right, any comments, questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, moving to old business, Brentwood Days.
All right, so I finally heard back from the Carnival Company, and I kind of put the information into the memo. Their whole thing is, when we talked about the different options, we talked about maybe either increasing, just going back to a free event, or, only charging for, or not charging for non-residents. I didn't put that information in here because we seem like we're on the path of staying what we did last year. So what I did ask them was, they said that unfortunately they would have to raise the cost because they put in revenue generation for games and for their food. And if we go to the kind of the thing we had last year, the model we had last year, that they lost money on, they didn't make as much money as they had in years past, so they had to make that up somewhere. So they see it 42,000 to 54,000 is what they said between 10 and 13 rides. If you think about last year, we paid 40,000 was our minimum, and we wound up paying them 8,700 after all the revenue came in. So it only cost us that $8,700. So I think it'd be similar this year. Hopefully year two, we'll see some more residents pick up wristbands, and hopefully, especially if the communication is that the lines are short and it's a great time and things like that. So with that being said, I thought that 13 rides is probably too much and expense-wise, and the fact that with the crowd size we saw last year, I didn't think it was needed. But I did think, it'd be nice if we could stay right around that 10 or 11. So I thought the 11 would be good. So that was my recommendation. So my recommendation is to move forward with 11 rides at $46,000 minimum.
Need a motion on that or something?
Your budget?
It's in the budget, yeah.
No, we just,
So, and how much do you have in the budget for rides, or do you can absorb this in your entire Brentwood days?
Yeah, so we have it because we didn't know what was going to happen. So we kept the 45,000 that we put typically in the budget. So ultimately, we're probably over budget, and we'll be saving money like we did last year because of the revenue generation.
Just for comparison's sake, the year that we had sort of the biggest complaints and issues, that was less than 10 rides, wasn't it?
They had
The
9 that
rides?
year based on issues with a lot of small issues that we talked about that year. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
right. But
the years before that, we were at 10. 10 was when we had the free event, it was always 10 rides before COVID. And then
yeah,
we're now finally back to pre-COVID levels with carnival rides.
I think 11 rides is a good target, especially if as long as they are like a varied rides for all ages, and then we've got other activities that you all have been planning, which I think helps.
Yeah, we asked for a mix of children's rides, kind of older kids, and we
Teens,
call
yeah.
thrill rides, which are supposed to be the I don't even know the names. The ones that go upside down, right?
rides. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah. So I think that's a good, smart way to go.
Agree.
all right.
Just as an aside, I did see the Wentzville Days was recently posted, and looks like they have a lot of the same, from the video they posted, it looks like they have a lot of the same experiences from the carnival rides. And,
Yeah, I feel like they use the same company if I remember
yeah,
correctly.
it looked almost identical. Looked like you could take their footage and put Brentwood Days on it, and it would be a promo for us. And they do charge 25 for wristbands for unlimited rides per day. So, or 24 tickets for 20 and $1 each ticket. So, I think what we charged last year was especially for residents, was definitely cheaper than that, right?
Yeah.
Per day.
I would agree.
Okay, so no motion needed, everything's good? Okay. All right, thanks, Eric. And then the last thing is new business, BMP maintenance. Is that you as well?
Yeah, so we put out an RFP for what we're calling an on-call for BMP maintenance and name-prairie stewardship. And the long story short is that, while staff is continues to gain more and more experience, we're still not 100% there yet. So our staff isn't comfortable doing BMP inspections and getting those reports filed and things like that. And we don't have the correct equipment to be able to get up inclines. When you think about down the Sycamore Trail, all the stuff that goes back up to what's currently still built, those type of things. And so while we think we'll get there in a few years, we just wanted to be able to have a company that we could call on and be able to come out and have them do a few things. And if you notice, the inspection fees are pretty small, but it was once you got into the stewardship and if you start talking about cutbacks and things like that, that got above the $2,500. And then be able to have to go out and find multiple quotes. There's not many companies that do this work. And so that's why we thought just an on-call would be the best way to go. So we put it out. We got 2 responses from the 2 people we thought we'd get it from, so DJM and Stormwater STL. Stormwater, we scored it, and our thought was that Stormwater STL was the better company for a couple reasons. That they've kind of started this whole stormwater inspection and maintenance thing. And if I didn't explain that properly, this MSD inspection is fairly new. I mean, anytime you touch any ground, MSD is going to require you to put in a BMP. We have in Brentwood Park 23 separate BMPs, 6 areas with 23 BMPs, and some of them are big as detention basin to small as amended soils. We have some amended soils around the overlook, but that is considered a BMP, so we have to do all the proper inspections and reporting for that. And so they kind of, as MSC kind of broke this out about 15 years ago, they started kind of being the ones who kind of really became those experts and things like that. They helped us identify our 23 BMPs. I couldn't have told you we had 23 BMPs until last year. I still can't tell you exactly where all 23 are, to be completely honest. I know where about 19 of them are. It's those amended soils. The amended soils are the weird ones. And so they're the ones who kind of showed us where everything was. The other thing I really liked is they talked about hands-on training. It's like, look, I think your staff can get there. They're more than welcome to be out there with us, working with us, helping us, and that way they get that expertise. And that's what you really want, because when you talk about native prairies and that, it shouldn't take a whole lot of maintenance after that first 3 years. We're still in that first 3 years, so we want to make sure we do it right so it all looks great and wonderful. And then, our staff they're not naturalists. So, but to get them to get some of that training would be great. And they're also partnering with Missouri Native Stewardship Services. And I don't know if you know that company, but it's another excellent company that does a lot of native stuff. And Chuck Calverley, who is the owner of that, they're partnering together. So that's why we chose them over GJM. So our recommendation is to approve the on-call services with Stormwater STL and move it on to the board for approval.
Make a motion that we approve BMP maintenance in the park.
Second. Do you have a worst-case scenario cost estimate if you had to call on all 23 of these? Have you kind of calculated that?
Yeah, the worst-case scenario would be around $20,000 to $25,000, and we're not going to do that, to be completely honest.
Okay.
Again, that is if we went by their recommendation of, hey, we should come out every quarter to do this. And some of the stewardship stuff is just weeding, and obviously our horticulturalists can do that. So, we wanted to make it broad because, again, until we are 100%, we'll fully staff, or not fully staff, we feel comfortable doing everything. We just want to be able to have some of that in place. It is within the budget. When we talked about that 2009 Brentwood Bound, we're going back to days when we're all at the rec center on a Saturday talking about everything. This was one of the things we talked about needing additional funding for, the staffing and then some contractual. So this is kind of built in that, and we built that in this year as well.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right, no more questions. So I guess all in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay. All right, go into citizen comment again.
There are none.
Okay, seeing no new business, this meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.